a shadow dancing in a timeless place. Through the halls of memories I feel your hand, guiding me gently where dreams still stand. For centuries I've waited, lost in time, searching for a heart that could be mine. Every echo, every
Clara Hayes sat at her cluttered desk, the warm glow of a desk lamp casting long shadows across stacks of old manuscripts. Her apartment was a museum of forgotten histories. Shelves sagging with leather-bound books, maps curling at the edges, and a delicate hourglass that seemed to measure more than just time. She sighed, rubbing her temples, staring at the ordinary calendar on her wall. Another week of lectures, archive work, and endless cataloging of artifacts stretched ahead of her. Life felt predictable, mundane. Yet, as she reached for her tea, something unusual caught her eye. A gilded envelope perched atop a pile of bills and letters. It was heavy, smooth, and unlike anything she had seen in decades of handling old manuscripts. Her name, Clara Hayes, was inscribed in flowing, golden calligraphy. There was no return address, just a wax seal stamped with a clock frozen at midnight. Her pulse quickened. Curiosity won. Carefully, she broke the seal, unfolding the parchment. The words shimmered faintly in the lamplight. You are cordially invited to the final midnight ball. One night, once in a century, all who dare to attend shall witness what the world has never seen. A shiver ran down her spine. Legends spoke of the final midnight ball, an event that appeared once every 100 years, whispered about in diaries, journals, and obscure historical texts. No one had ever truly returned unchanged. Her hand trembled slightly as she read the final line. Arrive prepared. Your destiny awaits. Clara hesitated. The rational part of her mind warned of hoaxes, scams, and absurd fantasies. Yet something deeper, an unspoken thrill, pulled at her. She pictured a grand estate, glowing under a moonlit sky, filled with laughter, music, and secrets hidden behind gilded doors. It was unlike anything her structured life had offered. Moments later, she made her decision. She packed lightly, a notebook, her camera, a scarf, and a journal, and left behind her routine city apartment. The streets were quiet as she walked to the train station, the crisp autumn air carrying a hint of magic, or perhaps her imagination. On the platform, the train waited, steam curling in soft clouds around its wheels, a solitary carriage illuminated by golden lamps. As Clara stepped aboard, she felt a mix of anticipation and nervous excitement. Somewhere out there, in a remote corner of the world, the estate awaited, and with it, the promise of something extraordinary. As the train pulled away from the station, Clara gazed out the window at the fading city lights, unaware that her life was about to change forever. The train screeched to a halt at a nearly forgotten station, shrouded in mist. Clara stepped onto the platform, her breath forming small clouds in the crisp night air. The world beyond seemed untouched by time. Fog-draped forests stretched endlessly, and the moonlight shimmered across still, silver lakes. Somewhere in the distance, she glimpsed the faint silhouette of the manor, its towers reaching into the sky like a forgotten fairy tale. A black carriage, drawn by two coal-black horses with eyes glinting like polished obsidian, awaited her. The coachman, dressed in a uniform that seemed more historical than modern, nodded silently. Clara climbed aboard, her heart racing with anticipation. The wheels crunched along the gravel drive as the manor grew larger, more imposing, and impossibly enchanting with every turn. When the carriage doors opened, Clara stepped into a courtyard bathed in golden lamplight. Ivy climbed the stone walls, fountains gushed with crystal clear water, and lanterns floated in the air as if held by invisible hands. The estate exuded a timeless elegance, a blend of centuries-old architecture and subtle, modern touches that somehow belonged together. Guests milled about, their attire more luxurious than anything Clara had seen in magazines. Velvet gowns in deep emeralds, sapphires, and crimson swept the cobblestones. Men wore tailored suits accented with intricate embroidery, their masks, some delicate lace, some gleaming metal, concealing identities. Each seemed to radiate purpose and mystery. Whispers floated through the night, snippets of conversations hinting at rivalries, secrets, and hidden ambitions. Clara felt both out of place and inexplicably drawn in. She hesitated near a fountain, adjusting her gloves, when she noticed him. A tall man, standing apart from the crowd, exuded a quiet, magnetic presence. His dark hair was slightly tousled, his eyes a piercing shade of gray that seemed to see through her. There was an elegance in his posture, a calm that set him apart from the hurried energy of the guests. Clara blinked, feeling a strange sense of familiarity, as though she had glimpsed him in a dream she couldn't fully recall. Before she could gather her courage to approach, he turned, offering a subtle, almost imperceptible nod in her direction. The gesture sent a shiver down her spine. Who was he? And why did it feel like destiny had brought them here, to this estate, on this night? As the manor doors swung open, revealing a grand hall awash in candlelight and the soft glow of chandeliers, Clara took a deep breath. The final midnight ball had begun, and she was no longer merely a visitor. She was a part of its legend. The grand ballroom was breathtaking. Clara stepped through the towering double doors and froze for a moment, her eyes tracing the golden arches, crystal chandeliers dripping light like captured stars, and towering mirrors that reflected the room in dizzying layers of brilliance. The floor was polished marble, cool beneath her heels, and intricate patterns of gilded vines spiraled across the walls. But it was the clock that dominated the far wall that drew her gaze. A massive, ornate timepiece whose hands glinted with silver and gold. Its face was etched with symbols she didn't recognize, and though it was not yet midnight, she felt its weight in the room, as if it pulsed with an unseen heartbeat. Guests had begun to gather, their murmurs blending with soft orchestral music. Clara noted the subtle elegance in their movements, the gentle bowing, whispered introductions, the fleeting touches of hands in polite but deliberate interactions. Yet beneath the surface, she sensed tension, ambition, and desire. Each guest carried a secret purpose. The estate itself seemed to heighten their intentions, magnifying every glance, every smile, every small act. A hush fell over the crowd as the keeper appeared. The figure was impossible to define, neither young nor old, his presence both commanding and ethereal. Dressed in a flowing robe that shimmered like starlight, he moved with a grace that made the room still with anticipation. His eyes, dark and knowing, scanned the assembly before settling on Clara for a fleeting heartbeat. "Welcome," he intoned, his voice rich, resonant, and slightly otherworldly. "Tonight is no ordinary gathering. this ball lasts only until the last stroke of midnight. Within these walls, magic guides the heart and tests the soul. Those who find their other half shall emerge free. Those who do not. He paused, and a ripple of unease swept through the crowd. Those who do not shall leave changed or lost to the corridors of time itself. A chill ran down Clara's spine. The legend was real. The stories she had read in obscure journals and half-forgotten diaries weren't mere myth. They were a warning, a promise, a challenge. Her pulse quickened as she glanced toward the crowd, and there he was, Lucian, standing with a quiet intensity, observing the keeper's speech as if he had long known its meaning. Their eyes met. A strange electricity hummed in the air, the kind that made her heart catch in her throat. She couldn't explain why, but she felt certain that Lucian was more than he appeared, perhaps a part of the legend itself, bound to the estate in ways she could not yet comprehend. The orchestra began again, a haunting waltz that seemed to echo the ticking of the great clock. Clara felt a pull, both toward the dance floor and toward him. The ball had begun, and with it, the first strokes of a night that would forever change the course of her life. The music swelled, a haunting waltz that seemed to weave itself into the very air of the ballroom. Clara felt the soft tug of a gloved hand, and before she could hesitate, Lucian was at her side. "Shall we?" he asked, his voice low and smooth, almost like a melody in itself. Her heart raced as she nodded, and he led her to the center of the dance floor. As they moved in perfect synchrony, Clara felt a strange familiarity in his touch, as if their bodies remembered each other from lifetimes she couldn't recall. Sparks of energy passed between them with every turn, every glide across the marble floor. The room itself seemed alive. Candles flickered as if breathing with them. The golden mirrors shimmered with visions that vanished when Clara blinked. Shadows stretched and danced along the walls, mirroring their steps in eerie perfection. And above it all, the great clock's hands ticked with an intensity that matched the thrum of her pulse. As they twirled, fleeting images flashed in Clara's mind. A garden under moonlight, a library filled with candles, a voice calling her name across centuries. Lucian's eyes betrayed the same confusion, the same hints of recollection that seemed just out of reach. "Do you feel that?" Clara whispered, her voice barely audible over the music. Lucian nodded, his hand tightening slightly around hers. "Time is different here," he murmured. "Every step, every glance, it matters more than it should." The dance drew them closer, each movement a conversation. It was as if the ballroom itself recognized their connection, guiding them toward something inevitable. Clara felt a thrill mingled with fear. If time had consequences here, what might happen if they misstepped? And yet, the pull between them was undeniable, a magnetic force neither could resist. For a moment, the world outside the ballroom vanished. It was just them, the music, the dancing, the ticking clock, and a promise of something extraordinary that neither fully understood. As the waltz reached its crescendo, Clara realized one undeniable truth. She had never truly lived until this night, and with Lucian beside her, she felt that destiny itself was unfolding with every turn of the dance. After the waltz ended, the crowd's laughter and conversation felt distant to Clara, as if the music had pulled her into another world entirely. Lucian's eyes met hers again, silently asking if she would follow. Without a word, she nodded, and he led her away from the grandeur of the ballroom into the quieter, shadowed corridors of the estate. The hallways were lined with portraits of unknown figures whose eyes seemed almost alive, watching the pair as they passed. The flicker of wall sconces cast moving shadows, turning ordinary doors into gateways of mystery. Clara's curiosity burned hotter with every step, her pulse quickening not from fear, but from anticipation. Lucian paused before an unassuming wooden door, its surface carved with delicate symbols that glimmered faintly in the candlelight. With a soft push, it creaked open to reveal a hidden library, walls lined from floor to ceiling with dust-covered books, letters tied in faded ribbons, and diaries whose spines bore dates from centuries past. Clara's eyes widened. This is incredible," she whispered, stepping inside. The air smelled of aged paper and candle wax, a scent both comforting and intoxicating. She ran her fingers along a stack of journals, feeling the weight of countless lifetimes preserved in ink and parchment. Lucian joined her, his gaze distant, almost melancholic. "These stories," he said softly, "they aren't just history. They are fragments of lives bound to this estate, lovers trapped and waiting, much like I was." Clara turned to him, eyes wide. "You were trapped?" He nodded, shadows flickering across his face. "I am bound to this place. I appear only during each century's final midnight. Only a genuine, mutual connection can release me from the spell. Without it, I return to the corridors, alone, until the next century." Her heart faltered. The charming, enigmatic man she had danced with was more than mysterious. He was cursed, tethered to a fate that spanned centuries. And yet, as she looked at him, she felt a pull she could not deny, a gravitational tug that seemed to echo the whispers of the diaries around them. Clara picked up a worn journal, flipping its pages to reveal entries of love, loss, and longing that mirrored the emotions rising between them. Her hands trembled. Could this be fate? A love story repeating itself across time, waiting for the right hearts to break the cycle. Lucian stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if you can believe me, but my heart recognizes yours. And perhaps only together can we change the story." Clara swallowed hard, torn between disbelief and desire. Everything inside her, the longing she had never understood, the thrill of the night, the strange familiarity of him, urged her forward. Against reason, against fear, her heart had already answered. She met his gaze, steady and unflinching. "Then we'll try," she said, her voice firm yet soft. "We'll find a way." A flicker of hope lit Lucian's eyes, and for the first time that night, the shadows of the library seemed to recede, as if acknowledging that the course of centuries might finally shift. The ballroom sparkled with renewed energy as the evening progressed, guests swirling in elaborate dances, their laughter carrying like chimes through the cavernous space. Yet beneath the glamour, Clara could sense a subtle tension in the air, a thread of rivalry and ambition weaving through the crowd. Shimmered with every step, she carried herself with the confidence of someone accustomed to getting what she wanted. Her eyes scanned the room, locking on Lucian with a calculating intensity. Clara's stomach tightened. Something in Helena's gaze wasn't admiration. It was possession, entitlement, and a faint glimmer of fear. Fear that Lucian's attention might shift. Fear that Clara's quiet presence threatened her control. Before Clara could retreat into the shadows, Helena approached Lucian with a practiced smile. "What a rare pleasure to meet you," she purred, her tone warm but edged with something sharper. I've heard whispers about the mysterious guest bound to the estate. You must be extraordinary. Lucian's gaze remained steady, but Clara noticed the subtle pull of attention as Helena brushed her hand lightly against his arm. She felt a pang of jealousy, tinged with confusion. Was it real attraction, or the magic of the ball manipulating her emotions? Clara clenched her hands at her sides, reminding herself that Lucian had chosen to be with her. Yet the doubts crept in like shadows. Was he truly free to choose, or was the spell influencing them both? Helena leaned closer, her voice a seductive whisper. A dance, perhaps? I promise. No one will watch. Lucian's eyes flickered briefly toward her, but then he looked directly at Clara, unwavering. No, he said firmly, yet gently, as if his voice carried an unspoken vow. I am here with her. A shiver ran through Clara, relief mixed with a new, deeper connection. Lucian's loyalty was not just a product of the enchantment, it was intentional, chosen. Helena's smile faltered, replaced by a flash of irritation. She glided away, leaving behind a tension that lingered like smoke. Clara realized that the estate was more than a backdrop. It was a crucible, testing not just love, but resolve. Later, Clara found herself in the quieter corridors once more, questioning her own feelings. Were her emotions hers alone, or had the estate's magic awakened them? The flicker of doubt faded when Lucian appeared beside her, his hand brushing hers lightly. Don't let fear cloud what is real, he said softly. The magic may test us, but it cannot create the bond we choose. Only we can do that. Clara met his gaze, and in that moment, the world outside the spell dissolved. It was no longer about illusions or manipulations. It was about trust, choice, and the undeniable pull of two hearts aligned against the odds. The night continued, filled with whispered challenges, dances, and stolen glances. Rivalries and temptations surrounded them, but with each step, Clara and Lucian began to understand that their connection was stronger than the allure of anyone else, or any enchantment the estate could conjure. The haunting waltz had ended, replaced by a low, echoing silence that seemed to vibrate through the very walls of the estate. Clara glanced at the massive clock dominating the ballroom. It was nearly midnight. The hands moved with a deliberate slowness, as though measuring more than mere time, counting down to a moment that could change everything. Suddenly, the estate trembled. Candles flickered wildly, mirrors warped, and the polished floors rippled beneath their feet. Hallways stretched impossibly long, doors twisted into unfamiliar shapes, and shadows stretched like living tendrils across the walls. The guests shrieked, scattering, while the keeper's silent gaze watched from the grand staircase, a dark silhouette of judgment. Clara, Lucian shouted, grabbing her hand as they darted into a narrow corridor. The walls shifted around them, forming illusions of rooms they had never seen but somehow recognized. A garden under a stormy sky, a library where their hands almost touched centuries ago, a street from lives they might have lived apart. Each vision tugged at their hearts, threatening to pull them in opposite directions. Clara stumbled, nearly losing her balance, as a vision of herself alone in another life flashed before her eyes. Lucian, what is this? She cried, her voice trembling. It's the estate testing us, he panted, guiding her through a twisting passage. It shows what could be, what might have been, but we can't lose each other to illusions. Trust me. Trust us. They ran, dodging shifting walls and apparitions of the past, each more vivid than the last. Moments of sorrow, joy, longing, and regret. Clara glimpsed a version of Lucian smiling at another woman, another version of herself turning away from him. A pang of fear twisted her stomach, but Lucian's hand on hers anchored her, a tether to reality, to the present. The corridors seemed endless, bending and looping back on themselves, yet Clara began to notice a pattern. Each illusion mirrored their doubts, their fears, the what-ifs of their hearts. Only by affirming their trust in one another could the illusions dissolve. Lucian stopped suddenly, pulling her into a small alcove, their foreheads touching. "No matter what you see," he whispered, "no matter what you feel, you must know, our connection is real. Our choice is real." Clara closed her eyes, drawing a steadying breath. She let go of the visions, the doubts, and the whispers of alternate lives. "I trust you," she said firmly, her voice echoing in the twisting corridor. At that instant, the estate shivered violently, then calmed. The shadows receded, the walls straightened, and the distorted corridors settled into familiar passageways once more. The keeper's eyes glimmered from the staircase, silent approval in his expression. As the clock hands approached the final moments before midnight, Clara and Lucian emerged from the labyrinthine hallways, side by side, hearts pounding, hands clasped. They had survived the chase, proving that their bond was stronger than fear, doubt, or the estate's magic. But the final stroke of midnight was still coming, and with it, the ultimate test of love and courage. The moon hung low over the estate, casting silver light across the manicured gardens. Mist curled around the hedges like ghostly fingers, and the faint scent of jasmine drifted through the cool night air. Clara and Lucian stepped into this secluded haven, the chaos of the ballroom and twisting corridors left far behind. Lucian stopped beside a fountain, its water catching the moonlight in rippling patterns. He turned to her, his gray eyes reflecting both centuries of longing and the vulnerability of the present moment. "Clara, there's something I need to tell you," he began, his voice unusually soft, almost trembling. Clara's heart skipped a beat. I think I already know," she whispered, though her voice betrayed a mix of hope and fear. Lucian took a deep breath. "For hundreds of years, I have awaited this night, this chance. Each century I appeared at the final midnight ball, searching for someone who could see me, not as a curse or a legend, but as I truly am. And now, I've found you." Clara's breath caught in her throat. She had felt the pull between them since the first waltz, the strange familiarity that defied reason. She stepped closer, her hand brushing his. "All my life, I've felt destined for something more," she admitted, "something beyond the ordinary, beyond the routine of my life. And now, I think I found it, in you, in this moment." Their words hung in the air, resonating like a song only they could hear. A warmth spread through the garden, golden light emanating from the fountain, the hedges, even the mist itself. The estate shimmered, responding to the sincerity of their confession, as if recognizing that a bond centuries in the making was finally being acknowledged. Lucian reached out, cupping her face gently. "Clara, I don't know if words can ever truly capture it, but I love you. Not because of magic, not because of destiny, but because I choose you, here and now." Tears glistened in Clara's eyes. "I love you too, Lucian, and I'm not afraid." The golden light around them intensified, washing over the garden, lifting shadows and illuminating the path ahead. Every tree, every flower, every whisper of wind seemed to celebrate their union, their choice, their courage. The estate itself had acknowledged that something extraordinary had taken root, a love that could transcend curses, time, and fear. They stood together, hearts aligned, as the first chime of midnight approached. Outside the garden, the grand clock awaited its final stroke, the culmination of everything they had faced. But in that moonlit sanctuary, nothing else existed, only the certainty of their connection and the power of a love that had endured centuries of longing. The garden's golden glow began to fade as the first chimes of midnight echoed faintly from the grand clock. Suddenly, a shadow fell over Clara and Lucian, stretching across the moonlit paths. The keeper appeared, his presence both imposing and ethereal, the very air around him shimmering with authority and unseen power. "You have come far," he intoned, his voice carrying through the still night. "But the test is not yet complete. Love alone is insufficient. Only a selfless act, born of true choice, can seal your bond. You must each prove that your devotion outweighs your desire for safety and freedom." Clara's hand instinctively tightened around Lucian's. What must we do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The keeper raised a hand, and a vision unfolded before them. They saw two paths. One led each of them away from the estate, free but alone. The other led them into an unknown danger, a realm of illusions and shadows, where only their trust in each other could guide them. "You may save yourselves," the keeper said, "or you may save one another. Choose wisely, for the wrong choice will leave hearts broken and spirits lost to time." Lucian's eyes searched Clara's, filled with a mixture of fear and determination. "Clara, if we separate, even for safety, we may never find each other again. Are you willing to risk that?" Clara felt a shiver run through her. The shadows of doubt loomed, whispering what-ifs. What if this is magic, not love? What if I lose him forever? But when she looked into his eyes, she saw more than hope. She saw a lifetime of longing, of patience, of unwavering devotion. "I choose you," she said firmly, "even if it means walking into the unknown, even if it costs me everything else. I choose you." Lucian's hand covered hers, warmth and certainty spreading through her. "And I choose you," he said. "No illusion, no fear, no curse can pull me away from you. We face this together." The keeper's eyes glimmered, unreadable. Slowly, he extended both arms, and the estate seemed to pulse with anticipation. The shadows and illusions of the corridors coalesced into a storm around them, testing their courage, their trust, their love. Clara and Lucian moved as one, hands entwined, hearts beating in perfect rhythm. Every flicker of shadow, every echo of the past, every temptation dissolved before the strength of their unity. They were not merely surviving. They were proving that their love was genuine, selfless, and eternal. At last, the storm subsided. The keeper nodded, a rare approving smile touching his ageless features. "You have chosen wisely. Your hearts are true. Nothing now can sever what you have forged." As the final stroke of midnight approached, Clara and Lucian stood together, ready to face the moment that would either release them or bind them forever. But now they knew they were prepared, not just by fate, but by choice. The great clock loomed above the ballroom, its hands trembling as they approached the final minute before midnight. Clara's heart pounded, each tick echoing through her chest like a drumbeat of destiny. Beside her, Lucian's hand tightened around hers, grounding her in the present, in the certainty they had fought so hard to create. The guests had vanished, or perhaps they had never truly existed. The estate held only Clara, Lucian, and the anticipation that hung thick in the air. Candles shimmered, mirrors reflected not just their images, but the countless trials they had endured, and the walls themselves seemed to hold their collective breath. "Ready?" Lucian whispered, his gray eyes searching hers. Clara nodded, her throat tight with emotion. "Ready." The clock hands aligned at the final minute, and a hush descended over the estate. Then, as the 12th chime began, their voices rose together, clear and unwavering. "I love you." The words echoed, bouncing off the walls, weaving through the air like threads of pure light. A surge of magic erupted, rippling outward in a brilliant cascade of golden radiance. The ballroom froze in a dazzling moment, suspended between time and eternity. Lucian's curse dissolved in that light, his form no longer tethered to centuries of waiting. The shadows that had haunted the estate melted away, retreating into the corners like frightened memories. The walls shimmered and sparkled, ornate details magnified in brilliance, as if the mansion itself celebrated their union. The fountain in the garden overflowed with liquid light. Gardens bloomed in an instant, and the estate transformed from a place of trials and illusions into a sanctuary of love. It was no longer a prison, no longer a test. It was a haven, a world shaped by the truth of two hearts united. Lucian pulled Clara close, their foreheads touching. "We did it," he whispered. "Together." Clara smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "Together," she echoed. Around them, the estate seemed to sigh in relief, the golden light bathing everything in warmth and possibility. The curse had ended. The final midnight ball had completed its purpose. And for the first time, Clara and Lucian could step into a world not defined by fear, illusion, or magic, but by love, choice, and freedom. The first rays of sunlight spilled over the horizon, painting the estate in soft hues of gold and rose. Clara and Lucian stepped out onto the dew-kissed grounds, the cool morning air brushing against their faces. For the first time in centuries, Lucian felt the warmth of a world unbound by magic, unshaped by the final midnight ball. The guests who had once danced under the spell of the estate now moved with serene smiles, memories of the night lingering like a sweet, unforgettable dream. They exchanged quiet farewells, leaving the estate with hearts touched, secrets shared, and a sense of wonder that would remain with them forever. Clara looked around, taking in the gardens, the fountains, and the sunlight glinting off the sparkling walls of the manor. Everything felt alive, familiar, and entirely new. She turned to Lucian, who met her gaze with a mixture of awe and tenderness. "We made it," she whispered, her fingers entwined with his. Lucian drew her close, resting his forehead against hers. "Yes," he said softly, "and now it's our world. No curses, no illusions, just us." A smile spread across Clara's face, and without thinking, she leaned up and kissed him. It was gentle, lingering, and full of promise, a seal on their journey, a declaration that their hearts belonged to one another, freely and wholly. Around them, the estate seemed to shimmer in quiet approval. Birds sang from the hedges, fountains sparkled with sunlight instead of candlelight, and the morning breeze carried the fragrance of blooming flowers. The magic of the night had not vanished. It had transformed, leaving behind warmth, hope, and the proof that love could triumph even in the face of time itself. Clara rested her head on Lucian's shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart. For the first time in her life, she felt entirely at peace, entirely herself, and entirely in love. The world beyond the estate awaited, but for now they stood together in the dawn of a new life, a life built on choice, courage, and a love that had truly endured. In the weeks that followed, Clara and Lucian explored the world beyond the estate together, free from curses and obligations. Their love deepened, grounded in shared experiences, mutual respect, and the extraordinary bond forged in the magic of the final midnight ball. The estate remained a sanctuary, a place of wonder and memory, now open only to those who sought inspiration, not tests of heart. Clara and Lucian often returned there, hand in hand, watching the sunrise over the gardens, where their love had been proven true. They knew that while time moved forward, their hearts had become timeless, and in that, they found joy, freedom, and a life full of endless possibilities.
The Stories book is a captivating collection of tales that traverse diverse genres and emotions, spanning the realms of fantasy, science fiction, romance, and mystery. Each narrative is a journey into the unexpected, weaving intricate plots and compelling characters. With a skillful blend of vivid imagery and thought-provoking themes, this anthology invites readers to explore the depths of imagination and discover the universal threads that connect us all. From heartwarming moments to spine, we hope you enjoyed these captivating video stories. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming content like this. Thanks for watching, and keep spreading the video story.